Sure.
So the answer's no, or what?
Oh, God, yeah. I'll just have to do more. Alakazam set us up with, instead of using VPNs to get into our shared drive, they have this program called Tailscale that anyway, it hasn't been working great. We've all had issues with it.
Awesome.
It's not better. I think we're ready to go back to the VPN system, because I'm not sure about this Tailscale. I can't do what they say I can do.
All right, we'll get started. Will you turn that on, please?
I think there's one. There we go. Oh, it wasn't.
Hey, there we go.
Down
Okay.
is on.
We'll go ahead and get started. Francis City Council meeting, April 11th, 2024. We'll get started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Clint, would you lead us in the pledge? Hold on, make sure this is. Okay, we are recording. That's good.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First thing, consent agenda. We'll approve the invoice register and the minutes from March 14th. Check registers in your Dropbox. The minutes were emailed. Any questions or concerns on the check register? If there's nothing on the check register, any concerns or further corrections on the minutes? And if not on either of those, I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve the invoice register dated April 11th, 2024, and the minutes from March 14th, 2024.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We'll now go to public comment. If you have something to comment on that's not on the agenda, I'm sure you guys don't because you're on the agenda, so. Okay, we'll close the public comment, go to public hearings, which there are none, and number 5. First item is the ordinance number 2024-05 zone change for the Crittenden subdivision. Katie.
All right, so last month we approved a zone change for the Crittenden subdivision, and we didn't have an ordinance. So we got one drafted to make it official. So the ordinance just, the official paperwork of the city to make that change on the zoning map.
So all we need to do is just approve the ordinance
Right.
at this point, because we've already approved the zone change, right?
Exactly.
Right, with that, I'll take a motion unless there's questions.
I'll make a motion to pass the ordinance 2024-05.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's passed. Next, the Bird Ranch annexation petition. The applicants are present. And Katie, will turn that over to you also for start.
All right, so some of you are probably around a little more than a year ago when there was an annexation petition that we called Burton Ranch. The applicants have come back and they changed their plan quite a bit and have petitioned the city again for an annexation. The location is north of the intersection of Lambert Lane and Helen Road. So right here is the Hart Crossing neighborhood, and then it's just across the street from that. The total acreage is 92.19 acres between 3 parcels. It is within the city's annexation declaration area. Their applicant's proposing to develop 24.73 acres as a residential subdivision, and then the remaining 67, almost and a half acres will be open space. So everything north of the canal will be open space. We'll look at the concept plans for that in a minute. So the first time they came was September of 2022, so this is definitely more than a year later. And when they came before, you might remember they were proposing development on both sides of the canal and a road that went through to 248, and this time they're just keeping everything south of the canal. So just as a reminder for our process for an annexation, we have to go through several steps, and right now we're at this is a very simplified number of steps, by the way. This process in here is very simplified, but we're basically at step 3. So we've already sent a notice of intent. The county did that. That went out to everyone within 300 feet. And then we have also received the petition here. So now we have to decide whether or not we want to accept the petition for further consideration or deny the petition. Sure, go ahead, jump in.
So what this means is, what the council has before tonight is simply just what Katie said. So there's a number of steps that happen. This is not approving the annexation. This is just saying the city will take a look at it, and what that means is that it would next go to planning commission. And the planning commission would look at it and say, hey, does this meet with our general plan? Does this meet with our annexation declaration policy? And they'll come back with a recommendation, right? They'll go through that process, and they'll dig deep. The public will get to weigh in on it. All of that stuff. Engineering will get to weigh in on, what kind of costs this may have for the city, future maintenance and snow plowing, road maintenance, all that kind of stuff. So this is not a policy statement to review today to say, we want this in the city. This is just saying, the application is here. Sure, we'll take a look at it. Or no, we won't take a look at it. That's what, if that makes sense.
That does fit, that put it up fix.
So you're not, again, just to reiterate, you're not approving an annexation tonight. It's just deciding whether the city wants to further investigate or not investigate.
Right.
Exactly. All right, so when we look at an annexation, the first thing we do is look at our general plan. And we have several goals and policies that kind of give us direction in this case. And we'll look at it a lot more if we accept the petition. We'll look at these a lot more later, but at this point, we'll just kind of go through the basics. So our first land use goal is to encourage development that respects and preserves the character of Francis. So let's go through I think this would be a good time to go through the concept plan to show you what they're planning, so you can keep all this in mind as we look at these different criteria. So, and keep in mind, this is a concept plan, and this can all change. If we accept the petition, we can negotiate some of these things potentially. So this is what they have planned right now. There's quite a few single family homes. There's some larger farm-sized lots, not farm, but just larger acreage lots, and then townhomes are also incorporated into the mix. So just to look at this development data and get a close up on that. So this would be, what they're proposing is a conservation subdivision with Ag1 zoning. So they're required to have 50% of open space, and with everything that they've done on this concept plan, they're almost at 75% open space. So they're quite a bit above the limits. And then they're allowed to have 105 units, and that's exactly what they're planning. There is a unit that they're planning on in the agricultural open space, like a caretaker unit. It's not shown on the plan, but altogether, I think it's actually 106, which is exactly what they're allowed. And they are allowed up to 25% townhomes, and so this is within that as well. They're planning 21. So we don't have to get caught up on the details on this right now. Again, that will all come later and we can sort that out. But this is where we're going to start, and this is what they have in mind. So we encourage residential development to occur in conservation subdivisions, preserving open space. We support continuation of agricultural land uses in Francis. We identify and designate environmentally sensitive lands, scenic views, and important open spaces to limit the adverse impacts of development on and near these lands. And we maintain an open space system that enhances quality of life, is interconnected, preserves the environmental quality, and protects development of natural hazards. So I did the staff report a little different. I'll probably start doing this maybe more from now on. I put in italics kind of my analysis, which isn't the code, it's just my own thoughts about how this aligns with our general plan. So a conservation subdivision is planned in the annexation area following the general plan guidance. Over 70% of the land will continue to be used for agriculture in perpetuity. 30% of the land will be developed and will no longer be used for agriculture. The open space is adjacent to the city's sewer ponds. The city's continued use of these ponds and their potential expansion will be protected by the large buffer of open space. If this land is not annexed and future development is allowed to occur near the ponds, the city may need to purchase this property as a buffer. The open space area is connected to other agricultural areas and is near the Deere property, which is under contract by Summit County for potential conserved open space. I'm still trying to decide what that's going to look like, but it could be open space. And then looking at the second land use goal, there were some policies that made sense to look at with this annexation. So carefully plan for growth, ensuring development occurs in suitable locations. So prioritize development within the existing Francis boundaries, guide land use and growth decisions through application of the general plan, zoning map, and the future land use map. And density increases should be considered only upon demonstration of adequate infrastructure, resource availability, and benefit. So my analysis is that there are over 500 entitled housing units within current city boundaries that have not applied for a building permit. It also may be more desirable to fill in areas near the center of the city before extending the boundary northward. The future land use map shows that this area as being Ag 2 zoning, and they are requesting Ag 1 zoning. If the petition is accepted for further consideration, the city will need to evaluate whether it can provide water and sewer infrastructure for an additional 105 units. Additional water shares will need to be turned in by the applicant to supply water for the development. And there are several benefits of this annexation. The conserved open space, especially in proximity to the city's sewer ponds, is the main benefit. The property was formerly in the West Hills Incorporation area, but the applicant has requested that it be removed. And another benefit of annex is that it would be within the city's jurisdiction, so we don't have to worry about it going to West Hills. And then my analysis looking at what the city code says about annexation. There's some guidance there. Prior to city council action on the petition, the city code says the city planner shall review the application and survey of the annexation area and evaluate the feasibility of the subject expansion of the city's boundaries. When considering annexation, the city code directs the city council to strive to avoid gaps between or overlaps within the expansion areas of other municipalities. Consider the population growth projections for Francis City and adjoining areas for the next 20 years. Consider current and projected costs of infrastructure, urban services, and necessary public facilities. Anyway, I'm not going to read it all, but we really need to consider a whole bunch of different things. We'll look at that more later if we accept the petition. And then my analysis looking at all that is that the area proposed for annexation does not create any islands or peninsulas. It is near other new developments and is within the city's annexation declaration area. It was formerly in the West Hills Incorporation boundaries, but was removed, and it is not within any other municipality's annexation declaration area. So I feel like it is a candidate for annexation. It meets all of our requirements. The city's population is projected to grow by approximately 8,000 in the next 20 years. So estimating about 2 people per household and 500 new units would need to be built to accommodate that 1,000 people. And there, like I said before, there are already 500 residential units entitled in the city. So I kind of showed the table of the projected population growth if you're interested in that. As far as feasibility of water and sewer infrastructure, there is that infrastructure located nearby. The main access roads are Lambert Lane and Democrat Alley. These roads may be inadequate to handle the increased traffic from this development combined with the new nearby development and the Hart Crossing and Hidden Meadows subdivision. So the city may want to request a traffic feasibility study if the annexation petition is accepted. And I recommend that the city have a discussion with Summit County prior to annexation about the timing of the planned Hallam Road extension to SR 248. We kind of need to make sure we have a spot for that. If the city, the county is still planning on putting it through this property, we want to make sure we plan for that. And then we need to find out if we annex it, is it the city's responsibility to build that road, and how is that going to work? So we need to, if it's accepted, we need to think through all those issues. I already went through a lot of the zoning and the concept plan. So they are requesting to add one conservation subdivision. Future land use map said, projected that it would be zoned Act 2. I think all of you know how conservation subdivisions work, where they allow clustering of residential lots and then open space in other areas. And they've exceeded the 50% open space requirement quite a bit. I've already gone through all the numbers on the number of lots, and they do get an incentive for being in a conservation subdivision. They get a 15% incentive. Usually if you have ag 1 zoning, then you have 1 acre lots, not including streets. With a conservation subdivision, you get the 1 acre lots plus another 15%, or you get 1 lot per acre plus the additional 15% incentive. So there is that incentive for preserving open space. One thing that I just saw in this concept plan that I was a little concerned about is that our conservation subdivision code says that all dwellings have to be at least 100 feet from exterior roads. And just looked to me like this wasn't, there is a wider setback shown off of Lambert, but it seems like that's not quite, I'm guessing that's 50 feet and not 100. So we might have to realign the lots to accommodate the 100-foot buffer. And then another thing that we just have to look at later, if accepted, is that there's a narrow alley that serves the single-family homes and the townhomes. We've used private alleys before in townhomes. We haven't really done that with a single-family home. So we probably want to talk to the fire district and make sure that they're okay with this layout. Lots 55 and 56, they have access on Lambert Lane. We usually try not to have lots have access directly on a connector, but we can make exceptions in some cases, so we have to look at whether or not we want to make an exception in this case. Anyway, that's pretty much everything that I looked at. My recommendation to you is to remember that annexation is legislative, and so the decision to accept or deny the petition is up to the discretion of the city council. And if you feel like it meets the goals of the general plan and the city code, if there's benefit to the city, then you can accept the petition and we can keep looking at it. And like Brad said, it's not approving it. We still have a lot of work to do before we get to that point. Public hearing is not required at this time, but if we accept the petition, then we would have some public hearings later on this. So that's it for me.
All right. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
I do. So
Hold on. Will you go
Oh, sure.
up there and then
Sure.
state your name just for the recording? It
Yes.
helps when we do our minutes. Thanks.
Yes, I need to talk to this.
Thank you.
My name is Tom Flinders. So last time we came in, which was about a year and a half ago, we were proposing a project as Katie described, but it didn't include the 10-acre Burton Ranch, and now it includes it. So that actually looked like an island at the time, if you remember. And so
Yeah, it was in the annexation, but not developed.
Right. And now it's all, in order to condense it so that we can leave all that open space together and useful, we've included that 10 acres and we're gonna keep the house and that kind of stuff.
Sweet. We're done.
Yeah, fire call it.
Anything else?
I'm just gonna, Katie covered it all, I just want to clarify what Nancy particularly. In the previous version, yes, we were gonna have development all over here. The if and whenever road will still create an easement, so if the county ever does decide to run that road from freeway after by Wellers, all the way down, which would go through the city property here, and then through us. And that's why we're leaving this open slot. And that could change in terms of layout, but in theory, we want to make sure that if that road ever does come about, that this will flow all the way back through and onto Hallam on the other side. And then, as you probably remember, there is a well on the property that services this existing house. And in talking with Scott, that might be repurposed unless it has a municipal quality, construction. Either we would just put the well into your system, or we would just tap in with the home new system within the city and designate that well for potential irrigation out here. All these existing canals would continue. But if there's any above ground irrigation needs whatsoever. And then as to the water rights, we do have a lot of water rights with this property. Don't know what we're allocating here when we work with Scott on that to determine what's needed to keep it viable, in whether it's grazing or future alfalfa fields, whatever the city, whatever people want to do. But other than that, this will probably change, as Katie pointed out, there's some setback issues we're gonna work with. But in general, we want to have density here with lot sizes that are within the minimums, but there are various between 7,000 to 10,000. The whole idea is to try to, as everybody knows, a big joke with affordability, right? We can put 1 acre lots out here and I'll have a bunch of homes that sell for $1.8 million. And no one can buy them that wants to live here. Other people who don't live in this area. So the only chance we have is to create lot structures that will allow the kind of homes that hopefully people find affordable.
So one question I've got while you're up there. We talked a little bit about, or Katie did, about a possible caretaker unit on the conservation portion. Is that, where would that be? What's your thoughts on that? Kind of just, I mean, obviously we're not holding you to that.
Yeah, this down in your time, or somewhere in this kind of general vicinity, was that the thought
Now,
process?
some kind of access.
Yeah, we had talked about possibly including it in lot 56 to come over here. We don't have any idea how big,
Sure.
because it's gonna have to, work around sensitive lands and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Well, that's my next question is, as far as the open spaces, is it proposed that the open space is then managed by the HOA? Is that a city managed open space? What's kind of the general thought? I mean, obviously details can be worked out or things can change, but what's your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure what's the most advantageous. You have an idea?
I think it's something that works out best for the city. Because if there's a potential use in the future for those sewer pond expansions, we certainly don't want to be controlling it in HOA.
Sure.
So there's got to be some sort of mechanism, whether it's an open space. I just don't know. That's a good question for.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Attorney.
To be fair, I don't know either. I just, something that I was thinking about.
It depends on what the council wants to do, right? So there's options, turning it over to a third-party conservation easement manager kind of thing. The city could do it. I mean, it could be incorporated as part of the area that gets sprinkled from the sewer ponds, if the sewer ponds, even when they expand. It could be used for grazing, growing. I mean, it all depends on, if you've got water, you can grow
Right. Well, I mean, I suppose if it were under city control, then I would assume that we'd probably throw it in with the rest of the property as a lease to be grazed for farm or whatever.
Right.
You know, it could be hay, it could be grazing, whatever, but an agricultural use. But I think, I do think that there's some value possibly there as far as, you know, future land application from the sewer pumps, because that's gonna become an issue at some point, or may, I suppose, become an issue. So that is something to consider in this.
Well, one other thing that I think, I've said this before, the conservation subdivision approach. You have competing interests, right? I want to develop the property, and you have the other, you know, interests that I want to preserve Francis and everything I love about Francis to be the same, right?
Right.
So it does strike a balance. I mean, it is a compromise. That's what it is, between develop as much as you can, as quick as you can, as, you know, pack in as tight as you can, versus keep some of the rural nature, you know, rural nature of Francis preserved. So, you know, I think this is a really unique opportunity the council has to preserve another, you know, 75% of this property, of these 3 parcels there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the things that I like about the conservation subdivision idea is that very thing. And in this case, the one thing I do know is that if we move forward with an annexation, I feel like I'm sacrificing this 101 units. But one thing I do know is that if we annex that and there's almost 68 acres preserved, that's 68 acres I can guarantee is gonna stay 68 acres of farmland, where if some other development concept were, you know, pushed through, whether it's in Summit County or in West Hill City or whatever the case may be, I can guarantee 67 acres is not going to be farmland anymore. So there's at least that. So anyway, that's just my personal.
Certainly something to consider.
Right. Okay, anything else you can think of we should know?
Well, other than, you know, we try at a conceptual level, this is pre-conceptual level, to get as detailed as possible so you have our idea, but we fully recognize that as studies come in, as setbacks come in, this thing could change, but we just want to get annexed first.
Sure.
And if you feel like you want to accept the petition and keep looking at it, but you need more information, feel free to request that at this point.
Right. Well, and really, again, we're just deciding whether or not we want to consider it. And so there's a lot of those types of things that can be worked out as we go through the process. And, you know, we could get a month down the road and say, well, this just isn't going to work. I mean, you know, that's a possibility, I guess what I'm saying. But by deciding that we are willing to consider it, that's really all we're doing, is deciding to consider it and work out those.
Further investigate, right? That's what you're doing.
Yeah. Any questions, concerns, comments from council?
Well, I was here when you come in the last time. And I can see that you've really put a lot of work and thought and our considerations into this. Not that I love it, but I don't hate it. I'm kind of with Jeremy, you know, and I have a child that is living in my house that needs something she can't.
No, you're absolutely right.
So-
We wanted to, we had to make it pencil, we had to figure out economically we could pull this off.
Yeah,
And that's why it's laid out the way it is. We found that, okay, we can literally donate 68 acres
yeah, and that's,
and still cover the costs and come out a little ahead.
and come out a little ahead. Yeah, so I mean, my thought is, yeah, we could, you know, look into this. We'll still have questions
Sure.
and everything, but what do you think, Clint?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. You know, there's a lot of concern about the 500 homes already. And, you know, this is, that being a senior, this is another 105. That's, definitely something that will be considered, but I see no reason to not move forward with talking about it.
I think the thing to keep in mind, and I don't know the background of these other 500, potential homes that are out there, and why they haven't done anything, why they haven't told any permits, I have no idea. We will not be of that ilk. If this goes through and we come up with a plan that's massaged to fit all the requirements and concerns that the city has, it won't sit there with a flip side on it saying, hey, please somebody buy it off our hands so we can go away. We didn't do that before, we won't do that. So we'll probably be ahead of the game as far as the other 500 people. We're going to assure you of that.
Well, yeah, so my personal opinion is, I think it's something we should certainly consider. I think there's some value in the open space. I think there's some value in the opportunity that it may present for the city should a need arise that we need more ground for the land application that may flow from the sewer ponds. It provides the opportunity to save that 67, almost 68 acres. And while I hate the fact of, or the idea of approving another 100 homes, again, the one thing I do know is that if we approve those 100 homes, I can save 68 acres, and that's a big deal. That's 68 acres that may not get saved otherwise. So I hate 100 homes, but I like saving 68 acres. So I think it's a good compromise in that way. And so my personal opinion is it's something we should consider. So I think with that, we I suppose we need a motion on whether to accept the application and
For further the annexation petition for further review, we have to.
so if there's no further comments or questions, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to further review the Burton Ranch annexation petition.
Okay,
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Well, step one.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. We'll be seeing you a lot.
All right.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen.
Okay. Next item, Circle T Phase 2 and 3 development agreement.
All right, so,
You need a better drawing.
I know, I
I
already
can
have
get you,
one.
I can get you a higher resolution on that one, it's like scanned.
Yeah, I'll have to get that at some point for sure.
Yeah.
All right, I just wanted to throw it up there so everyone has an idea of what we're looking at here. So talking about some of those subdivisions that have been sitting for a little while.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, I like how he said, I won't be of that ilk. And I appreciated his comment, which, like, we spent 3 years fighting the lawsuit to keep the open space, and keep the Kirklands from losing everything.
Yeah.
And I was dealing with a dishonest partner that basically was just kind of a con artist. And so, we're still here, we're trying to make things good, so whatever, that is what it is. And we're trying to get all the T's dotted and the I's crossed so that, and when our attorney looked at it with Brad, he's like, we just need a new development agreement. And so he just started over, and that development agreement is carbon copy of what was done on phase 1. But then later on, when Brad and Katie and Scott reviewed it, there was a handful of little items that they added, basically to capture what was originally put in there. And all we're trying to do is get it so that it's not effectively when all of the, like the bank foreclosed on it, and then we foreclosed on our partner that was dishonest, which is phase 2 and phase 3. it went in a hole, right, went under. And so we had, we're at a point now to revive it and get it good.
Great.
And that's where it's at.
Will you just state your name for the record?
Andy Wall.
Thanks. Yeah, and also, we understand there's a whole lot of back.
Yeah, there's no slight to you, I'm just
So,
saying.
yeah, we're not,
this is-
we don't hold it against you guys. It's just-
Yeah, I've been working with you, Andy, on this, on getting this in a good place where we can move forward. No slight to you at all, it's just a fact.
And he's always been an outstanding guy.
He has been,
There's no
this
question
is
about
not, Andy's actually really helped the Perkins and helped, like you mentioned, preserve the runaway ranches that they're building on right now, so.
Yeah, so please don't take it as
Was not,
one finger, so.
No.
Your reputation is intact and it's a good one.
yeah,
Right.
we realized this wasn't really all in your control, so.
And honestly,
And I honestly think he was talking about the one behind my house
oh, really?
instead of the one on the hill. Yeah, that's been longer in the process than yours. Like,
There's a few of them out there.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
but yeah.
All right, so, Andy gave a great background on this. At one point, we had a development agreement for all of the whole entire development altogether. And then it just kind of got, after the bankruptcy, it got sold off into different pieces. And you might remember, some of you might remember Logan Page coming in, he owns phase one, and we created a development agreement that just was for phase one. And now we're at the point where Andy's trying to move forward with 2 and 3 and trying to make it so that someone can pick it up and start doing it. So this, what we're looking at tonight is a development agreement just for phase 2 and 3, making sure that it can go forward, even if phase 1 doesn't go forward first. So, so really we're trying to do 3 things: separate the obligations for phases 2 and 3 from phase 1. 2 and 3 are kind of just going together, so we're splitting them from phase 1. Split phase 2 and 3 obligations according to the new phasing plan. So we had a different plan for phasing before, we have different lot numbers. We want this new development agreement just to make sense with the new phasing plan. And we want to make it possible for phases 2 and 3 to proceed before phase 1 if necessary. So we have spent some time with Andy and his attorney going through the development agreement, going through some different drafts of it. We really wanted to make sure that we got everything from the original development agreement into this new one, plus all of the logistics of how is it going to work if 2 and 3 go before phase 1.
Sure.
So, so phase 2 and 3 have 58 lots. One of those is an existing home. But anyway, so we're really looking at 57 new lots, but it's all entitled through previous annexation agreements and development agreements. So these are the changes that we're proposing, updating the phasing plan for the subdivision. So before, these 7 lots here plus the open space were part of phase 3, and that is all going to be part of phase 2 now. And then phase 3 is this purple back here, and we'll get into some of the things about this later. Splitting up the annexation fees for phases 2 and 3 based on the number of lots. So phase 2 would pay $277,000-ish, and phase 3 will pay $108,000. And then the number of water shares would also be split by lot. We want to make it clear that the developer of phases 2 and 3 is not responsible for the outstanding fees owed by phase 1. Phase 1 still owes about $30,000 in outstanding fees to the city.
Wait, say that again?
Phase 1 owes $30,000, and phase 2 and 3 will not be responsible for paying for those
right,
fees.
okay, got it.
So those will stay with phase 1. The developer is going to construct 1700 South Ranch Road. So that's this road here. And if you were around when we looked at the first phase 1 development agreement, this was one of the main things we talked about is who should be responsible for Ranch Road.
Okay, so
And
sorry, I'm blind as a bat, so orient.
this is, yeah, and so it's It's the
Rusty's house is just to the
northernmost
left.
boundary. This is Rusty's house out here.
Okay,
This
gotcha,
is the cabinet shop and 700 South is right here.
gotcha.
So Ranch Road, 700 South, they're the same thing.
Right.
Phase one has to build the road. They own the road, they own the land for the road, and they have to build it to this entrance right here. It's called Build Handling. And phase 2 and 3 have to build the road all the way back here to Stockman. It used to be a circle, but now we're changing some alignment, and so that's just gonna be a regular road. That is one of the main things we'll be talking about, is how that's gonna get divided up. But basically, phase 2 and 3 will both be responsible for the cost of this road. But it has to be done before phase 3 is recorded. Let's see, I think
Bonded for.
go ahead.
Or
Bonded for, or recorded, or, yes. Good job, Scott. Thanks for reminding me of that.
Just scared it.
I know, that's true. I always default to that because that's how most people do it, but you're right, you can bond for it too. Okay, and then the cost of that road is gonna be split between phases 2 and 3, and phase 2 has to bond for their share before they can do the phase 2 plat. We wanna make sure that the money is there before they can record, or
When we're talking about phases 2 and 3, are we talking about two separate individuals or just phases of the subdivision?
at this point, it's just one.
Just one.
Two actual phases.
Like, just background, we have a buyer that wants to buy phase 1, 2, and 3, but, Logan Page is a used car salesman, I'm just gonna say. It's the easiest way to explain his approach to things, and he doesn't want to spend a dime on it, but he wants to sell it for retail. And so he's just waiting until he gets worn down to the point where he realizes what the actual value is. And that's where it's at. So when.
But you could potentially sell phases 2 and 3, they could move forward while phase 1's still.
They want to buy phase 1, and then do phase 2 as phase 2, and then phase 3 is phase 3.
Sure.
But they're okay buying phase 2 and 3, and then, buying phase 1 at some point when Logan comes around.
So long as they're able to proceed
Right, right,
and
and
recover some of their costs, essentially.
there's a handful of potential issues, and that's what we have to have something that somebody can come in and say, oh, yes, but this is doable.
Right.
If there's all kinds of big question marks, then we're just trying to solve all of those, is all we're trying to do.
I can appreciate that.
All right, another issue was thinking, okay, if phase 2 and 3 go first, this is Kirkham Lane, that comes through here. That was the responsibility of phase 1, and it still is. But if phase 2 and 3 go first, then we need that road to be in good shape, because that's gonna be one of the primary access points of this phase 2. So they would have to bring that up to city standards and make sure that, and bring up the trail to city standards.
Right.
And the water and sewer lines that go through that area. They'll have to connect to those, so of course, the water and sewer lines will all have to meet our standards as well.
What infrastructure's in the ground now?
Water and sewer.
Water and sewer.
Throughout the whole thing or just phase 1?
So
Just
just
phase 1.
phase 1.
So if kind of a quick summary is there's a sewer at the end of a manhole, the sewer manhole clear down here on the street. And the sewer's done all the way there, right to the manhole, but it's not broke in. And once you break in and then you test it, so to get it up to specs, we'd have to have an easement, a 20-foot easement, all the way through the street where the sewer is. We'd have to bring it up to city specs, have it inspected, and then we would tie it in.
Connect to the manhole, yeah.
Same with the water has to be tested, it'd have to be tied in, we can actually tie in through Kirkham Lane there, we don't have to tie in all the way over here. So the easement would just be for the sewer. And Kirkham Lane is currently owned by Phase One, but we would improve that with no cost to them.
Right.
So it would take some of their costs away and say, in exchange for improving this, give us an easement kind of thing.
Right.
So it's, we still gotta do the first step was to get the development agreement, in place. And then the second step is to get the easement, I've already got it drawn up. I just have to get the agreement in place with Logan.
Sure.
And so it's just all these little things, and like, even that lot where there's a house there, we have an agreement with them that's all drawn up to like, once the street's there, then their current easement that runs along the back of those lots will go away, and we'll make you a new driveway, we'll tie in your water and sewer.
Which is the existing house we're talking about? Is that Lois's house?
No.
They just sold it. Yeah, it's right there,
So somewhere right here, this is their house.
Oh, so it's Johnny's parents' house.
No,
It's just off of 35,
it's the yellow house.
back, that big yellow house.
Big yellow house behind the old
So it's
church.
off 35.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back in where
I'm on the other road.
This is 35.
I got it now.
you're used to live, Wes used to live,
Yeah.
He was a ski lift repair guy. But
I think they just barely sold it or something, didn't
Yeah, they got divorced and sold it.
Yeah.
they? So I just always call it the yellow house behind the church.
Yeah.
The
right,
church
I
isn't
got
there,
you.
but you remember.
So yeah, we talked about the water and sewer agreements, and then the easement, we talked about that already. They would also be required to replace the landscape barrier. You have to build a okay, yeah, I remember it's now. So, one of the original development agreement requirements was that there would be a landscape barrier on the back of all these lots that have the back on Ranch Road or 700 South, so that people couldn't access their lots from the back. And the original development agreement said there should be a berm or some kind of landscape barrier. We like the idea of a fence better now, so they have to put the fence in, but only for the lots.
Yeah,
Really just these two lots.
Logan does the fence and the trail along the ditch.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a ditch there, nobody's going to access their property because it's an open ditch.
Right.
You never know. We've seen crazy things in Kansas.
Put a troll back.
Yeah.
It's just a
yeah.
culvert spot.
Just drive home.
And the trail is not a trail, it's part of my driveway.
Right, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Voice of experience.
Yep, been there, done that. So, they have to
How else am
have,
I gonna get to my backyard?
they have to put up a 6-foot privacy fence just on these two lots. And then, they would have to follow our requirements for ingress and egress, before they can record phase 3. So, you're just, right now you have to have, you can't have more than 12 lots on one access point. So, anyway, we'd have to look at that.
And that's a fire code
Right.
requirement.
Right. For the ingress and egress, we.
That is, that pretty much summarizes everything that we changed and what is all happening with this development agreement. So my recommendation is to review the changes in the new development agreement and then give approval for the mayor to sign the agreement if the agreement accomplishes the 3 goals that I talked about, and making sure we get all the obligations into this new one. And I think we could go ahead and give the mayor approval to sign it. No public hearing for this item.
Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns from council?
I don't have any, just glad something's happening.
Yeah, that's my thoughts. Yeah, let's get this thing going. Great.
So do we need a motion to have Jeremy sign it, or do we just say, okay, go ahead, write it up and have him sign
Well, let's
it?
read it up, yeah.
It's all
We're ready to
right.
go.
You just need to give me permission to sign.
This is it. Well,
Grant Jeremy permission to
I-
enter into this contract with the city, on behalf of the city, and enter into the agreement.
Okay, well, I make a motion to give Jeremy, Mayor Foreman, sorry, permission to sign and enter into this agreement.
Second.
Circle T.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Great.
I have one question, was kind of for Brad and kind of for Scott. If you want to scroll back down just a touch.
scroll down to the
No,
agreement.
just right there.
Oh, okay.
So we changed this from a cul-de-sac to a street. And because we have the Graham, well, Graham's in here somewhere, and then Webster and
Atkinson.
Atkinson, those three. It's my understanding that they wouldn't allow use of their half of the road, because right now they installed half the road, right? And that's what the agreement, what the development agreement says, is we'll finish the other half of the road. We'll engineer it, and we'll get, there's some technicalities that go along with that, like the gutter, like we'll probably have to put a curb on that side, something to take stormwater, so it doesn't go in the ditch, because Provo watershed's real, particular about the water that, or what goes in there. But since we moved this up to here, one of the guys that was interested in the property was asking, so what says that they can't stop it again? Because essentially they stopped, they said, we're not gonna allow half of this road to be used for this development. Is it written? What's the agreement with the three parties here that says they agree to allow half of the road to be used for the development?
Well, they had, the thing that they had control of was, if you go down further,
This little
Down
spot
there.
right here,
they had control of dedicating that.
this half.
Yeah, and that has nothing to do with you. So
But,
that was the agreement they made.
If you gotta get back to phase 3,
but from here back it does, right?
Kind of, but I don't think we ever saw the agreement that they made.
I don't know if they have an access agreement. I talked to Rusty.
They made some kind of.
He claims there's no
agreement.
agreement.
Well, they agreed to something, so.
I don't know. That's just what he said, that's his
Because-
claim. I'm not saying it's
Because
right.
Logan
or
paid to
wrong,
pave that road, so there was some kind of agreement. Logan paid for that pavement,
but
for
he-
them to get allowed access to.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's my question. Who are they that we're talking about? Rusty and Grant? And
Yeah,
Atkinson?
the three, Rusty, so Webster, Graham, they
Remember when they came for the first one, they didn't want the road going, tying into, so the lights be shining in Trent's house.
So this road right here came right here,
Oh, yeah,
and it was going into their,
kind of shining in their house.
in their house. I mean, nothing right now, but eventually, if cars would go out, they would.
Right.
So we pushed it to here. We haven't actually finalized engineering on this phase, but essentially, if you scroll down a tiny bit,
Trying to get over there.
Um,
Okay, there we go.
the culvert ends probably like right there, so the only change is that we'll have to extend the culvert a little bit. But I would like to have something that says that they can't just all of a sudden say, hey, there's no agreement, and just do a switcheroo again and say, no, we're not gonna let. But here's the thing that the city has over the three, we ran sewer and water right to there. So once that's live, then they can connect.
Yeah, they had to get permission from us to connect.
Right, but they'll have to pay their annexation fees, and that's something I think secretly they don't wanna pay. They wanna just somehow get it, like, well, we'll dedicate the road. So that's something in the future, I don't know.
That's something we have to work on.
So my
does
question
Rusty
roundabout
never-
is,
What's that?
Does Rusty and them own the road?
They own the half that they paid, they own the other half.
they don't have the road, but we need the whole road.
We don't need.
Are we talking like half down the middle lengthwise or
Yes,
half
this
down the middle
right here.
lengthwise?
This,
Lengthwise. So you know where Rusty's driveway is paved? That's Rusty's property. Right there, 1700 south is gonna go right down next to it.
see this line right here in the middle of Ranch Road?
Yeah.
This is this Graham's?
Atkinson is first, Graham's in the middle.
So Atkinson owns this all the way down.
Yeah.
So
See
when
that line?
it comes time to deed this road, like, to the city,
But that's
We
just
can
these
deed
half
our
the
house.
roads. It's not even in the city. Those are things that we've got to work out.
Yeah, so in the county, it's not.
It's not gonna stop anything on your subdivision.
that's all I need to know, and I don't know if there's something I can get. A warm fuzzy letter from Brad and Scott saying that nobody can stop them, you know? Cause all somebody coming in to make this happen sees is, what about those guys?
Right,
What can they do to kick me in the teeth and stop this thing?
See, right now, Logan Page owns that, very good people.
He owns just this little bit right here,
Right.
right down here.
He got that in exchange for paving their road. So the full road, we required the full road be built back to Philtown Lane. Then half the road, you guys have to build all the way back to that, east property line. So they can't stop you at all, because
Okay. We're
Logan owns the property.
We're just doing half the road.
Yeah, you can't dedicate property that you don't
Yeah.
own, right?
Right.
But it's already
Right,
right.
if they want to annex, if they want to do something, if we want to build that road,
Then you sit there and say, okay, to annex, you've got, or to connect to the sewer and water, you gotta pay your annexation fees and dedicate the road.
Yeah,
Right.
impact fees.
right,
Yeah, impact fees for sure.
So,
Cause I think, kinda getting weird technical, but I think I actually own this part where the road is.
what is that?
That's why we could not require him to do as part of the phase one development agreement. We wanted to, I wanted him to build,
All the way.
Ranch Road all the way back to along his property line, but we couldn't because you own
Right.
Right,
and this piece
which is something I can just say, hey, I'll deed that over in exchange for easement. Cause I need easement over the sewer.
Right.
So. And he never even approached me to ask me about it. All he asked me about is a turnaround. And I'm always like workable, because to get a development done, you have to just work with everybody until it's done. I'm not gonna play weird stuff, but right here, there's a sewer and water right there in front of Atkinson.
Right.
Or I mean,
Grants.
so anyway, that was just my question. Is there some that's, I don't know,
If you've got a potential buyer, have them contact us.
okay. That's basically all I need to know. And I do have a commit, we've met with Sage Homes, they're still wanting to buy it, so. They had an investor that pulled out, but that's a long story, it's not.
Yeah.
It was more of a mood thing, it wasn't a viability of the project, so. anyway. Sorry to go on a tangent,
Oh, that's right. Better to have it figured out than.
because it's part of the twists and tangles of this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely need to get that worked out.
I mean, if you want a real long tangent, we could talk about the Kirkham lawsuit.
Oh, man, that's.
Okay.
I'd like to go home tonight.
I'll take some notes, too.
I'll just give you like, no, I'll just tell you like a one-liner, because my wife likes to tell long stories, and I tell very short stories.
I don't
So,
know if I believe that.
Thank you.
you know it was successful because the Dickamores flipped them off at the end of the lawsuit. So we were successful.
There you go.
That probably felt really good.
That's the only detail I'm gonna give you.
I like it.
It's 3 years and lots.
Oh, man. Well, we're just glad to see some action, so. that's
Yeah.
good.
And that's all I had, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think we're done, right?
I think so.
Now we're
Thanks.
good.
Appreciate all your help. Everybody's been really good to work with, so.
Yeah, Joel, thanks for working on it. say we're glad to see some action, so. It's a long road,
Yeah.
long road. All right,
Okay.
Thanks.
thank you. Okay, next is budget discussion. In terms of money, we have no money.
We're coming up with ideas.
Thanks, you guys, see ya.
Have a good night.
What about a city park?
So the new building's got a foundation, we're gonna double the size now.
We're gonna double size now.
Yeah, it's a little too small for you to double it.
We're gonna
That's
go
part of the
fix it.
budget discussion.
All right. She's got money for building.
Yeah. Okay, budget discussion. Is there a certain direction we need to go here? Anybody got anything in mind that we need to get added into the budget as we're preparing the budget for this coming year? That will be upon us very, very soon. So if there's things that you.
We're adopting a tentative budget next council meeting, right?
That's right.
If everybody gets me figures.
So we need to get stuff to Suzanne if you want it in the tentative and
Yeah.
vote it on.
Yep, now's the time to talk about those things, if you have anything you're passionate about. We're
So I
aware of
don't
some,
know what's done, and we'd like to talk about pricing on the concessions or anything, we talked about that last time.
on the repair work.
Mhm.
As part of that grant we applied for, we added, so we'll see how that works out. We requested some money to do an awning on the east side of the concessions.
Okay.
As far as the interior of the concessions, I don't know that it's real feasible right now, but so let's kind of wait and see. I think unless they have something specific they're thinking about that I'm not aware of. Let's wait and see kind of where this grant goes. We're aware of some major road repair issues that may need to take place. Hallam on that kind of south end, we're thinking about that. The Willow Way will take place, but that's money from this budget, right? So anything like that that you can think of that needs to be addressed, now's the time to throw those out, and we can start looking at numbers on what those may cost, and if it's feasible to throw those in the budget. I don't have anything in particular.
Yeah. We were just something fun on it, and
Right.
thank you.
So yeah, if you have something, get it to Suzanne within the next week or two. Two at the very, very latest
Mhm.
Is that month or two?
Spot.
month. All right, if we have nothing else on that, we'll go to the next corridor study match. This is a Katie item as well.
Yeah, so, I think I shared with you all at the last meeting that we got approved for a corridor study, $150,000 in Camas, Oakley, Francis, and Sonoma County, all on 32. So the grant's 150, and then between all four of us, we need to come up with another 15,000. So the way they divided it,
What's the purpose of the study, just real quick?
so they are looking at, kind of came about, it really started in Oakley, because UDOT is projecting that Oakley will need to expand SR 32, and they wanted to go to a 4-lane road, which really doesn't jive with what Oakley wants to do there with their new city center. And so they wanted to look at that, give them some other ideas besides doing this 4-lane road, like maybe some other ideas that could help get something better in there. And so then Oakley reached out to us and Camas to see if we'd be interested in. We said, yeah, absolutely. We have a city center coming in on this corner right here that we need to look at how is that gonna work road-wise and building-wise, and then same with Camas on their main street. We wanna look at that too. So they're gonna be looking at, where we have our city centers, ideas for pedestrians and getting people through those areas, still having a nice main street.
But still allowing it to be a state highway that.
Yeah, we want it to be a commercial area, but still a state highway that has to have a lot of people going through, so how can we make that all happen?
Perfect.
So that's why we're doing the study. So they broke down that $15,000 match into 4 pieces. Summit County is gonna do 5,000, Oakley's gonna do 4,000, and they're asking us and Canvas to each do 3,000. Canvas approved their 3,000 a couple nights ago, so, just wanted to ask the council to approve $3,000 for the corridor study. We looked at the budget, and I think we could, Suzanne and I kind of looked at where it come from. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that, Suzanne. It seemed like there was probably some places we could pull from. I don't know if we can amend the budget to make that happen. or
Yeah, I'll
not.
have to amend it like when we do with it in our whole end of the year.
Mhm.
Have to be part of that.
So we could take it partially out of like planning, cost for planning, which this would fit in that.
Right.
But we don't have quite enough in there, and then there's some other places that might make sense to pull from.
Okay. It would just be a matter of amending the budget before we close everything out, right?
You can approve a budget application, and then as long as it gets done in the final budget for the year, that's fine. So you can do it now and then just
Amend it.
include it in the amended budget at the end of the fiscal year.
Right. Okay. Sounds good to me. Questions, concerns from council? Okay, I'll take a motion to approve the $3,000 corridor study match.
I'll make a motion to approve the $3,000 study match.
Okay, is there a
I'll
second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, there's that. Okay, next thing. Policy discussion regarding property damage. This is in relation to personal property that may become damaged during city operations.
You want me to take this?
Yeah, what do you think? I was
Okay.
formulating how I was gonna approach this, so yeah.
Okay, so, in particular, we had, a resident that had a doorbell camera that I believe, that reported, an incident where during snow plowing in February, if I remember right,
Yeah.
there was one of the mailbox got knocked over. So just to talk about what happened, there was, mayor talked with a number of different entities, different cities, county, what do you do, public works to the county, what do they do? And, county kind of says, well, if it's in our way, our job is to plow the street, and if it's in our way, that's the resident's problem, we're not gonna do it. Anyway, so the question is, does the council want to take, if this was something where there was like an accident and, a plow driver fell asleep and drove into the house, it's a different discussion, right? There's
Right.
clear liability and all that stuff. There is a video that shows plow driving by and afterwards the mailbox is down. So, it doesn't appear from my view that the snowplow actually hit the mailbox. Typically, if you're driving in a plow and you hit something that's cemented in, or, a big 4x4 post in the ground, you're usually going to fit that. And there was no reports that was the case from our driver. So anyway, there's a chance that it was just the snow that hit it. Either way, the mailbox was damaged. The question becomes, what does the council want to do with it? My understanding is the council had a discussion last month?
Last month.
And there was discussion about, I think it was discovered recently that, after a couple of council members took a look at it, it's maybe like, oh, it looks like liability, it's clear it happened, while we were doing our job. So the question becomes, do you want to have a policy to, when the cost is de minimis, in this particular situation, I believe it was $115. candidly, one call to, doing any research from our office, right? And, you've already spent $115. Right, so, I think it might be wise to have a policy if it's under $250, as long as there's either an affidavit from a resident or documentation of a resident that this has happened and it was caused. It was there when I woke up, when I went to bed, the mailbox was there. I got the mail yesterday, woke up this morning, the snowplow came by and the mailbox is down. Right, I mean, not to say that that's always going to be the case, but just the question becomes, do you want to have a policy where as long as there's some evidence that you can look at and support it, city would cover the cost of damage, or take a more, strict approach of, you don't want to. So anyway, that's kind of what this is about.
Right. So from my perspective, I think there's two ways to look at this. One, being consistent with surrounding entities may or may not have some value, and the other side of that is, when the value is under a certain dollar amount, there's a possibility that you avoid some further issues just by taking care of those things. But I do feel like
you're concerned about abuse.
Well, yeah, I'm concerned about abuse, but I also think it's important to have some sort of written policy that can be referred to, that, if I'm not the mayor, this is not the council, and this is not the staff, that they have something to fall back on that they can look at, or whatever the case may be, that there's some written policy that says, here's how Francis City handles these types of situations, so that there's some guidelines rather than we're going willy-nilly with a case-by-case basis, which, then presents the possibility of some bias or some other, decision-making process that may or may not be fair. So it's just easier if there's a policy, in my opinion. So that's kind of my stance on it.
Well, and just to clarify, but just to shed some a little more additional light, what happened in this particular situation is the resident went ahead and purchased the replacement stuff, and then sent a copy of the receipts and said, hey, I would like reimbursement, thanks, kind of thing. And there's not a form that the city has policy. If you have a claim against the city, there should be some information gathering, why do you think the city's at fault, all those kind of things. And had there been a policy in place, it might have been a little easier to, review that rather than say, okay, the resident sent a receipt and said, I'd like to be reimbursed for this is why.
Right.
There's not an existing policy. I mean, you guys are dealing with taxpayer dollars, so it's not like, oh, okay, well, let's just cut you a check, no problem.
Right.
I mean, budgets are there, and now if the council has, budget for, incidental damage due to public works activities, okay, then there's budget to pull from, and then we have a policy that says, if you've got photo evidence or an affidavit or something like that, and the value is under this, if the value is over this, then we send it and submit it through our, liability insurance.
Right.
Kind of thing. Right. But if it's under that, it's not worth the impact to it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could come up with a policy that.
I think that would be my preference, and I think, like you're saying, it would be good to add that line into the budget. If it's $1,000, couple $1,000 in that budget line, whatever it may be.
It's got to be supported by evidence, right?
Yeah.
In this particular case, after a little bit more investigation by our public works director, there was video evidence of it, right? And initially, my understanding is that initially it wasn't part of the submission.
True.
And the request.
True.
So because of the cost of it, we wouldn't send it to liability insurance?
Right.
If it's at the minimum amount, yeah, I would say if it's below this amount, then it's not worth.
Right. Yeah, so that's my feeling. If we have a written policy, we have a budget set aside for those types of things, then it makes it a whole lot easier and cleaner.
Yeah.
These do arise, and they don't happen very often, but every now and then you have this issue. So that's kind of my feeling. I would like to make clear in a public meeting, if you saw the email from this particular incident, the individual homeowner wrote in that email that I personally went to the scene and looked at it, saw the video there at the scene and all those things. That's not true. I didn't go there. The public works director went there. I didn't go there,
Right.
just to be clear.
Yep, I do that. So,
There's some misunderstanding there, but I just think that's important to have
Yeah.
that portion cleared up. Okay, any other thoughts, questions, concerns?
My question is the council that's here, is that an agreement, you want me to put something together like that so that we can have a place in that and maybe, do you want to do a budget amendment? Put some amount in that for this year to handle that, or let's get the policy and then we can address that at that time for next council meeting.
yeah, probably get
There's
everything.
money in council contributions.
Yeah, I mean, so my feeling is we should have
Get the policy.
we should get the policy before we amend the
Then the
budget.
council adopts the policy.
Right.
Before.
Get the policy, so everybody's on the same page.
Okay.
But obviously that's just my opinion.
Okay.
Anything else from either of you?
Direction understood.
Okay. Frontier Days. Oh crap, I'm gonna send this. I have, the proposal for the rodeo. They send over. Cost did go up a hair, which I anticipated. So I'll get that sent over so we can approve it next meeting. Anything Frontier Days related from either of you?
Is there a date we wanted to have committee collect and get together, and was there kind of cadence for that?
Yeah, we should probably do that relatively soon, probably in the next couple weeks to the next month. I think we need to be pretty much elbow deep in the planning process by May, June. So yeah, let's kind of work toward that. So I guess a more direct answer is I don't have a specific date, but we probably should be moving forward soon.
I think definitely sometime in May, probably.
Yeah, definitely. I did talk with Shane McMullen and with the Lions Club. He's interested in becoming involved in Frontier Days with the Lions Club and doing some sort of trap shoot or something, a 2-day kind of thing. I told him that he and I would meet, and then we'll get him in touch with the committee as they go forward with planning. But unless someone has a problem with adding that as an event,
No, sounds good.
we can move forward with that as well. How's your
The Creek
Queen
Hunters.
Compass?
Lindsay's just taken over. She's amazing, so.
Your saddles were.
The saddles here.
Were.
The saddles here, the crowns are revolving crowns, so you don't need to order crowns. You mean buckles?
I can't remember what was.
Okay, I think, yeah.
I hope so.
I can't remember what it was.
I've got the crowns for the attendance order through the, maybe she sent you that, I don't know.
Was that $180?
No, it shouldn't be that much then. It was the buckles.
Oh, the buckles.
Yeah, so the saddle's here. She said the saddle's here. Buckles should be here pretty quick.
I'm good.
I just need contestants, so get working, let your nieces, Jeremy's, they can come here.
Ooh, good luck.
So I had a thought with that.
Okay.
You guys keep doing the veterans thing for Frontier Days.
Yes.
Do you want to do some sort of display or something in the new building, in a cabinet or something?
Possibly.
But maybe even at the Walmart in Evanston, this is what I saw.
Yep.
And they have that wall that has their veterans on the
Yeah.
pictures. If you did something like that for everyone you do each year,
Pretty cool. should be easy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'll be cool.
Possibly, for sure. I should add, Katie and I met with the RAP tax grant,
Restaurant tax.
restaurant tax grant, sorry. Folks, today, we requested some money for Frontier Days advertising, for some prize money, for, some branded merchandise, and also for some improvements to the concessions. So I'm not sure exactly when we'll hear back on that, but we made that presentation today, answered all their questions. Really, Katie did it, I was just there.
You were just
Support.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we requested like $77,000 or $78,000
Oh, nice.
in total. So hopefully we get 100,000 of 78.
Yeah. They need more, that's Francis, they need more.
That's right,
They'll be-
that's right. So yeah, we'll keep you up to date on that as we get notified on that, so.
And I had a talk with Wade. He says he will not be on our committee, but he will advise, like he'll come to a couple meetings and tell us some ideas of how to get us bigger and better.
Okay.
He's still actually improving the Oakley rodeo, so he's like, yeah, we're doing lots of changes, you can always change and get bigger, so
Yeah.
I think we better grab some ideas, so.
I think they're getting too good.
Probably, but
Yeah,
I don't think we'll ever be that big, so.
I hope not. My goal is to not be that big.
Yeah,
I might be the only one that has that goal, but that's my goal. Okay, anything else on Frontier Days? Oh, I have a commitment from my brother to run the concessions, so
Good job.
there you go.
yay. Did you get a commitment from
Sam,
Tana
yeah.
also, or
Yes,
just
yes,
Joe?
the whole family.
Okay.
Well, not the whole family, but at least that part. So, yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move to the next item. Anything for council reports?
No.
Attorney report, you're up.
I have one. So I talked to the mayor and just make sure that you guys had your open public meetings act training, and he said you did, and do not dare bore me with that again. So I said, I would, but I said, what about grandma? And he goes, what about my grandma? And I said, no, grandma, the Government Records Access Management Act. He didn't say that, I made that up. Anyway, so grandma requests, we deal with those not too often in Francis. I deal with them a lot more often than you guys do, but anyway, a couple of things came up with some other clients. I just want to remind, I want you guys to learn from mistakes of others. So that's what wise people do, is they learn from the mistakes of others. So had a client that had a bad habit of texting staff, elected official texting staff during a meeting. Can you believe that guy said that? What a four-letter word. All this stuff. And then somebody noticed, elected official,
Yeah, looking.
So what did we get? We got a grandma request. So what constitutes a record? So what constitutes a record is, this is why it goes hand in glove with Open Public Meetings Act, but open and public meetings are to be conducted in front of the public. So you should not be having any deliberations with staff or other elected officials during a meeting. So if you're texting during a meeting, that creates a record subject to request underground. So my advice is, do not ever text during a public meeting. If it's your wife, no problem. If it's between another elected official or staff, don't do it unless it's an emergency. And if it's, I've had one example where there was a public threat, and it was, hey, it was the police chief that was texting the mayor about a threat that had been called in, regarding something on an agenda. So we'll go ahead and release that. Go ahead and do that. It's an emergency. That's not an issue, but don't be sending text among that. And one other thing that goes along with that is, if you have a policy situation or policy issue come up and you're notified, let's say your resident sends an email en masse to everybody. don't respond to that email en masse, don't have a discussion. If, designate one council member to respond if you want to, or mayor to respond to it. If the council deems it necessary, if the mayor deems it necessary to respond to it. But you shouldn't email back and forth, on a policy situation. It just it could potentially create a violation of grandma, and an Open Public Meetings Act. So, and then when you get the grandma request, it's pretty embarrassing when you've got a council member, or a mayor saying that resident is a piece of, so anyway, the other thing is, if you do want to have a discussion on a policy thing with the council member, don't do it during a public meeting. And number two, make the phone call. Because when you have a phone call about a policy issue, if Clint wants to call mayor and have a 2-hour call, there's no record of it. There is no record to respond to it. Phone records are not records. And that's the other thing that's important to remember. Even if it's on your own cell phone, your personal cell phone that you pay for, if you're doing it as an elected official during a public meeting, that is record. And it's subject to disclosure under grandma. So save yourself, save your city from embarrassment or taking the paper. Anyway, that's all I want to say. And learn from mistakes of others. Not that anybody's guilty of that. I'm just saying, learn from mistakes of others. Don't fall into that trap. It's an easy one to fall into. That's it.
Okay. Planner reports.
All right, so you already covered our talk with the Restaurant Tax Grant Committee. We're moving along on some things on the parks. And we have I met with the pump track builder this morning, and he's gonna be doing a little bit of maintenance work out there. He also wants to finish up the smaller pump track, so they're gonna be doing that. And then we should have some shelters installed hopefully soon, and some other improvements going on, both at this park and then the one in Wild Willow. That's really about it for me, so.
You guys have made some very nice improvements to the city grounds, or the playgrounds.
We're winning.
Yeah, in the last few years, you guys have come a long way and made a lot of progress, so well done.
Thank you. Yeah, we're winning. I agree. Scott?
Okay, so Foothills Francis Gate is going to be doing some blasting
I saw that.
next week.
Yeah, I saw they were drilling there.
Yeah. So, guess the president's hear something about blasting, and I get everything on my ring. Did you hear an explosion? What's that? Gunshot, whatever.
Shannon went postal.
Somebody Shannon's
Check Shannon's first.
Yeah, exactly.
And then on the well, I'm working with, I've got Rocky Mountain Power, we're working with them to try and get some power stuff figured out. So we can get that finalized and get going. Working with the supplier, the pump and the shaft and all that stuff's coming, just getting it finalized and trying to finalize some things on the well house with the contractor FX Construction on that. So,
We don't have a date yet on those?
no, it wasn't out today, But that's,
We do have a plan to get,
yeah.
to have it well connected before the pump house is done, right?
Yeah.
Yes. All right, anything else? Okay. I don't think I have anything other than obvious sub building has started. That's good. It looks really small to me right now. I'm sure it won't be when we're done, but
I hope
it does look small. So, but the good thing is it's in progress. And we'll soon be seeing walls going up and things happening, so it's a good deal.
Well, I did have a question about that. I
Yeah.
asked Katie and Suzanne in the office or whatever. So it's facing that way, that'll be the front?
Yes.
So are we planning on covering the ditch and have park and have there? Tell Dusty to
With
not park there or?
parking in front for City Hall,
Okay,
on the right off the road.
right off the road.
45 degree.
Okay. I mean, we can't tell him not to
It's
park and stuff there because we don't own it, but,
Whether we own it
Yeah.
or not, it's public parking on a public
yeah.
road.
Okay.
So, unless, I don't know how we could put signs that say,
City Hall parking.
City Hall parking only, can we do that?
Yeah, well, that was just my only concern. I mean, it's not built, we don't have that problem yet, but.
Don't you put up the sign?
Can we do that?
Do we want to do any code enforcement on that? I mean, I think that's kind of been a question in my mind for a little bit.
He just always has like
You drive
5 or
like
6
this
trucks
yourself?
there, that's gonna take.
Well, I don't think there's a, I don't think there's a,
Yeah.
But
Some more nasty letters?
we
I
are
don't think there's a code violation for them parking on the street.
No, the
No,
parking is blocking the road with a semi.
Big semi trucks.
I saw them today.
no.
They park on the road, unloaded,
Unload.
and there was only one lane that was clear.
I mean,
The
yeah,
other issue,
that's also, I mean, exactly what they do in Camas. So,
Let's just say they do that everywhere with
they have to do that, but
cars, stores, when they're unloading their food,
we usually
or to a main
require,
street.
it's pretty common, but, okay,
But
I'll concede on that.
we usually require businesses to have enough parking for all their employees. So,
Right, but
and
is
when
the-
we're gonna be culverting that, we're gonna have to let them know.
Well, they'll have to move while we're working for sure,
Well, yeah, why they're piping, they're gonna have.
but the question is,
And there's only
Long
about
term,
4 or 5 is all that's right in front of City Hall.
the real question is the business inadequate parking or they just don't use it?
Cause they can park across the street
where?
in front of Dusty's place.
Where they're parking?
They could, but then their
There's
customers,
usually different vans and trucks on it.
they could park.
Anyway, yeah.
I didn't mean to open that can of worms, but I was just like, oh. Okay, carry on.
Okay. And, we're gonna go to item 7. We do have, something I'd like to discuss in a closed, session, so I'll move that we leave open session, go into closed executive session to discuss, the professional competence of an individual. Okay, now,
Do we
You
need
have
to
to have a
second
second, you
that?
have to have
yes,
a unanimous
right.
vote.
I'll second that.
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, I stop this recording.
So I'm gonna end our live stream.